Hi, I'm on Imagination with the Healing Garden. So I'm not going to lie. This is probably going to be like a 40-minute video. I'm going to be very realistic because there's no way I can talk on this topic without really. It's one of my favorite topics. And it's funny because it's actually, I didn't realize how much it went on to influence the Healing Garden, but it truly, truly is the core. Like, we cut this gorgeous garden open, we get to that center, and in the center is this pulsing heart of just this belief. So this is the center of the Healing Garden. When I was in the horrific situation I was in, the abuse started when I was 4 years old. I will not elaborate because it is really bad what I saw. And so from 4 years old up to 15, it was 15 when I had that shift from 4 to 15 years old. I don't remember anything before 4 years old except New York City. New York City is literally the oldest memory that I have. And all I remember before 4 years old is being in the Statue of Liberty, looking at Manhattan and screaming because they wouldn't let me go to the torch. And then screaming for 3 hours the ride home because they were taking me away from New York City. So even at 2 years old, I had the intuition that this is where I belonged. So that being said, from 4 to 15, I was in victim mindset, and something shifted. I don't know if I was in victim mindset. I don't want to talk about that. But something shifted at 15 where I had this massive awareness, this massive realization that if I wanted to get out of this hellhole that I was in, if I wanted to get free and just change, if I wanted to be free of the abuse and the horror I was witnessing, then I had to become smarter than my abusers, which wasn't hard. And I had to become skilled at navigating their psychology. So I made this decision to become educated at 15 years old. It was a very conscious, deliberate plan. I want to get out. I want to change this situation because it fucking sucks. How do I do this? Knowledge, information. What do they have that they lack that I could get that would one up me so I could overcome my situation and go where I want to go? Knowledge, education, information. So books were banned. If it did not mention God and Christ, then books were not allowed. So up until that point, up until 12 years old, I read the Bible and Pilgrim's Progress a lot. I read Pilgrim's Progress a lot. So at 12 years old, I managed to get my hands on my very first book, The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux. I love French literature. And then I went right from that to Les Miserables, which actually, yeah, you cannot. It was a teacher. I was in sixth grade. I was in, sixth grade. A teacher brought in the musical, The Phantom of the Opera. And I went, oh my God, what is this thing? It was music. It was the first time I heard music that wasn't recorded choral boxy music that they do on Christian radio. My mom. And I went, oh my God, what is this thing? It was called a full orchestra. That's what it was. So I went to the library because, that's where information is kept. And I found the book Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, and I read it. It was beautiful. Oh my God. It literally became a teddy bear where I slept with it every night for 20 years. It is still like my cozy, warm place is the Phantom of the Opera. And then you can't touch Phantom of the Opera without finding Les Miserables. So I went back to the library and I got the book, Les Miserables. I was 12 years old. And the first thing my English teacher said to me was, you can't read that. You're 12. That is a college literature piece of book, or a college, that book is college level. You can't do that. It took me 3 months, but I read Les Miserables. And that was the start. From there, it was great books, education, psychology, philosophy, sociology. It was theology and history and mathematics and physics. And I learned that if you read the great books, it is equivalent to a liberal arts degree. So at 15, I started reading all the great books. I made it through about 75, 80% of the list. And it was very shortly after that 6 months later, I studied existentialism. Big topic. Big topic. Existentialism is the study of who we are, where we're going, what we're doing here, and why we are here. Big fucking topics in philosophy. And then I studied formal argument, logic, debate. I mastered formal argument, logic, debate. And that's when I started to, well, that's basically when I became quiet and observant. And I very much embraced Socrates. Socrates was a huge influence in my early life because Socrates teaches us to basically sit down, shut up, and listen. That is my summary. Sit down, shut up, and listen. Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. Ask questions. So I developed the Socratic method. I learned and mastered and implemented the Socratic method so that I went from being argumentative and aggressive to observing, quiet, silent listener, and writing. So that by the time I was 20, I was able to out argue in New York City attorney and free myself right on the spot from psychological entrapment and Stockholm syndrome. So it continued there. I continued my education. But I will be the first to tell you that without education, without raising the conscious awareness, you're not going anywhere. You are not going anywhere. And whenever you walk into a therapy office, and this is something I noticed time and time again, every time I did therapy, every time I talked to clients about their therapy, is there was no raising of the conscious awareness. I don't understand why psychology does this. I do not understand. I do know. We're going to step off into politics for a little bit. The government wants you to be stupid so you'll obey. It's a narcissistic trick. The more stupid you are, the more obedient you are, which is why narcissistic Christians teach you that children are to be seen, not heard. Don't ask questions. Don't go to college. Don't question authority. It's because they don't want you to think, because then they can't control you. It's a very classic narcissistic trick. That being said, once you start learning and educating and raising your conscious awareness, you start to question authority. You start to question basic behavior. You start to sit back and go, look, I understand that you have a PhD in psychosis. I understand that you have a PhD in psychiatry and psychology and that you work for NIM. But I'm going to question you because I've studied philosophy, because philosophy teaches you to think. And our government does not want us to think. So we're going to step away from politics. We're going to go back into the wonderful world of philosophy and psychology, and we're going to continue with this. So when I embraced this lifestyle of thinking and education, I started to question the status quo. I started to question what was considered norm. I started to bring out and really step back and observe and ask the question, is what we are doing with our society the right way? Not right as in ethical, right as in correct. Is the way we are handling psychology the best way? Is the way we are handling patients who come into therapy being done the correct way? So I took my beautiful philosophical background. I took my gorgeous Carl Jung information. I love Carl Jung. And I stepped way back and I looked at everything I knew about psychology from the inside out. And I went, why aren't they raising the conscious awareness? That's like the first step, is make people aware. They say awareness is the first step, but they actually don't do that. In fact, they deliberately go through years of therapy without ever raising your conscious awareness. They never once stop and say to you, welcome to therapy. I'm going to show you the healing arc. I'm going to show you the umbrella of healing and the stages of healing. They don't do that. That's why you give a student an outline when they join a class, is because you are raising their conscious awareness. Now, I noticed, again, Socratic method, I stepped back, I shut up, and I observed that I did best in my academic classes in high school when I was given a Sibelius, I can't remember the word for it, an outline of what, please, if you know the word, leave it in the comments. I would love to know the word and I can't remember it right now. Syllabus, I think it's syllabus. It's that arc, that flowing overall arc where you see, oh, this is where I am with my education and this is where I'm going. And I noticed when I had that outline, my education was better, my ability to participate was better. I could see that. So I'm huge on outlines and raising the conscious awareness. And the problem is, up until the Healing Garden, there has not been a syllabus for healing. There's been well, we can get you, we have a goal. We basically want you to form your own perspective. That's pretty much it. We just want you to show you that you can form your own perspective. And that's all they do. But they don't even tell you that, because that would be raising your conscious awareness. And the government, who oversees psychology, doesn't want you to do that. So you're sitting here going, what am I what am I doing? You want me to talk about how horrible my childhood was? You want to talk about my parents. And you don't understand why. You don't understand. And I'm sorry, but I believe that most of us are theoretical learners. I believe that the majority of people are theoretical learners. I am a theoretical learner. I don't even think the word theoretical learner exists. It's a term that I made for myself to describe my learning style when I was 15 years old. Because when I was 15 years old and studying philosophy, I learned that I have to comprehend why something happens in order to understand it. You couldn't just give me a word and say, like syllabus, and say, what does syllabus mean? Well, I have no idea what syllabus means. I have to, first of all, look up what country syllabus comes from. It's Greek or Latin. Aha. BUS, that means it's going to be Latin. So I'm looking it up now, a syllabus. And I need to look at the etymology. Oh no, it's okay, it's Greek and Latin. It started off as Greek and then it switched over to Latin and then it became modern Latin, which is why it's syllabus. And it comes from situba, which means title, slip, or a label. And then from there, let's look up the etymology. And the reason why I do it this way is because by comprehending where the word comes from and what the original word meant, I am able to put it into my brain. Yet it means a title slip or a label. The concise table of headings of a discourse. Now, I have committed that to memory. I know what syllabus means. And I have the spelling now permanently in my head, syllabus. So I now know the word. I've learned it because I am a theoretical learner. So when you understand the why, the how, and the overview, the origin of something, it's embedded on a deeper subconscious level. It goes deeper into our, okay, the belief that I just had in my brain about where the word comes from, what it meant, and how it's spelled is now rejected. The new information is put there, and now my perspective is clearer and sharper, and I have less confusion. See how that works? So, but this is philosophy. This is how we think. This is the study of how we think. This is philosophy. And philosophy was deliberately pulled out of our society because the government doesn't want you to think, because then you won't be obedient. See how that works? And somebody who grew up a slave for 40 years under terrorist rule of fear and enslavement understands and appreciates this. That obedience, the more a person is stupid, uneducated, the more obedient they are, which is why children are so forced to be obedient. If you want somebody to be obedient, keep their education down. If you want somebody to decrease their obedience, their education is going to go up. Education is the nemesis of obedience. See how that works? So my number one priority when I built the Healing Garden was, well, I'm just going to raise your conscious awareness. That's it. I am going to raise your conscious awareness. Because I don't want you to be a slave. I don't want people to use terrorism, the act of inciting fear on you to control you. I don't want people to use terrorism on you in your home, domestic terrorism. I'm using that term. I don't know if it's a real thing. I don't know if it's been out there. I'm using it. Domestic terrorism, where somebody you love or somebody you're living with is terrorizing you to gain your obedience. You know who else is obedient? Slaves. Slaves were very obedient. The ones who weren't were terrorized with physical violence or mental violence or just horrors, like I was, which is why I say I was a slave. It's because fear was used at the level of terrorism to control me. I mean, yeah, and I also wore chains for like 6 months. So there's also that. So yeah, like psychological entrapment, Stockholm syndrome. These are psychological conditions literally where your mind, your subconscious mind, is held hostage through methods of terrorism. And our government does it to us by keeping us obedient, by keeping us ignorant. And the best way to keep a person ignorant, take away philosophy. Don't teach them how to think. It doesn't fly for me. So I teach people how to think. I am an advocate for making sure philosophy is back in our society so you can think for yourself, so you can sit back and question the authority to say, excuse you, are you being ethical? Is this right for me? I prioritize freedom and human rights and life above my opinion. I value freedom because the minute one of us doesn't have freedom, none of us does. And that is what the narcissist does not understand, is while they're gung-ho on trying to control other people by obtaining their control, they have to prioritize their opinions above the freedoms of all others. What they don't understand, because this is all done psychologically, subconsciously, is that when they suppress the freedom of other to gain their own power, they too also are susceptible to having their freedom taken away, because that is what they enforce. Because they value their opinions more than freedom. And if you have freedom, if you value freedom, and if you prioritize and preserve the freedom of others and yourself, your opinions can now coexist with other people where we celebrate our differences. So celebrate your differences. Oh, please believe whatever economic, cultural thing you need. I respect you because I value your freedom to have that opinion, so long as you do not enforce it on me. But the minute you think your opinion is better than mine, now you're a narcissist. Now you're seeking to, now you want the control. Now you want to throw out freedom so you can control others so you feel safe. Now it is pursuit of safety. And that is how you're living. Pursuit of safety. How do I get safe? How do I find my safety? I have to control others. To control others, I need to value my opinion, so I'm the top dog, and I will destroy everyone else's freedom so I can have control, so I can be in charge, so I can feel safe. This isn't about politics you've projected. This is about you feeling safe. That's how the narcissist works. And it's all done through taking away our education, through literally limiting our conscious awareness. And that's where I step in and say, that's fucking bullshit, because I have mastered that technique. I learned that technique when I was 15 years old. Not good enough for me. Not good enough for me. My standards are high. So my goal is to raise your conscious awareness. That's it. With a raised conscious awareness, by just gaining information, by just switching your perspective just a little bit each and every day, by you realizing that you are busy pursuing your happiness, but your subconscious mind is really freaking out trying to pursue its safety, you're never going to find happiness when you don't feel safe. You need to address the safety first. In order to do that, you've got to raise this conscious awareness, because conscious unawareness breeds fear. Drop mic.